Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 6th day of July. Got a great show on tonight. Jeff Van Gundy going to get back into coaching. Very successful coach. He seemed like he got into coaching very young. It's only 61. Now, mind you, that Greg Popovich is 73, 74 years old, still coaching in the league. Got a few thoughts about that. Jeff Van Gundy, remember, he was laid off from ESPN. Plus, someone else agrees with my take on this new found discipline of the New York Knicks. I'm going to play a soundbite of that, a move they did not make. And it seems like they're on the right track, not trying to push things and the right fit. Plus, going to talk the NFC South. Been teasing this for a couple of days here. Going to let you know who's on the hot seat, who I think's going to win the NFC South. A lot of interesting storylines about that particular division in the NFL and more. I'll be back. We'll hit the ground running here in 49 seconds here on SportsScope. Hello, SportsScope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and SportsScope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay, so reports are today out of New York. Every time I think about Jeff Van Gundy, I think about the Knicks. He actually coached for the Houston Rockets for a little while as well. But there are reports that he's wanting to get back into coaching. Pickles, you know, he's one of these guys. He got in really young as an assistant and worked his way up. I mean, got in at his 20s, worked his way up. He's only 61. He's been working these ESPN games. I didn't realize it, but him and Mark Jackson and Mike Breen have been working together for 17 years. And of course, with all this big layoff, I've covered that story extensively with ESPN laying off all the people. Now he's wanting to get back into coaching. Van Gundy has, for 5 years that I know of, off the top of my head, Van Gundy has been rumored for a job every year. Now, Stan Van Gundy, not a bad coach, but he is Jeff is much better coach than Stan Van Gundy. Jeff been to the finals with the Knicks, with an 8th seed Knicks team that year in 1999 against the Spurs. Now, they lost that. Never really had great teams around him, whether it be in Houston or with the Knicks. I think he would be an excellent find. He won't have the patience. I think that the league is kind of turning back a little bit. And I'm going to talk about this story with the Knicks here in just a minute. But I do think the league is getting back into team building. They're getting back into, instead of throwing a bunch of stars together, we saw how that's worked out. It's blown up in the Nets' face. We saw it blow up on Dallas getting Kyrie. We saw it blow up on the Nets. We've looked at teams that have that are successful over the last few years. You think about it, not just Golden State, who's built within their core. You also want to look at teams like this Knicks team, his former team. Also look at the Denver team. Coached pretty hard, actually. Mike Malone, I can listen to his tone and the sounds of the game and how he's coached this team. There's a lot more European players making their way in. The number one pick was Victor Wembanyama. The last three MVPs are foreign-born players, much more coachable. So, Corey, I have to disagree. I think that now the LeBron Kobe era, I know Kobe's dead, but Kobe was hard to coach, folks. He was very difficult to coach. Like I said, not just in Phil Jackson's book. Look at the other coaches, Rudy Tomjanovich, for a short period of time. There was another coach that's slipping my mind. He wasn't that great a coach anyways. Former Knicks coach, a coach of Lakers for a short period. So that era is kind of phasing out. And it's the era of some of these European guys overseas. I would say European because, Joel Embiid's from Africa. But the foreign-born players are more receptible to coaching. And that's what I thought. Maybe he's not going to get a head coaching job now because the jobs are pretty much filled up. You've got training camp coming up in a few months. I could see a guy, Van Gundy, fitting in with the Memphis. He's more of a harder coach here, very straight shooter, honest coach. I think a lot of players have grown up watching him. He's been 17 years, worked closely with Mark Jackson, highly respected guy. Mike Breen, highly respected guy. Mark Jackson, also former coach and player too. Thank you. That's, okay, Miss Campbell. Yeah, all right. But, so Jeff Van Gundy, very underrated. And that was about what I was going to say, Corey. Maybe he comes in as an assistant for 2 years, works with Wembanyama, and he takes over for Greg Popovich. He'll be 74, 75 years old. Maybe he retires a year or two out when his contract expires. But I do think that a team like Memphis, per se, with Taylor Jenkins, I've read that Rick Bucher, an NBA reporter, said that they run a very loose ship. He's covered some of their games in Memphis. Guy like Jeff Van Gundy would be really good for that. So the NBA, a lot of good things are happening. I know Clay Travis totally just trashed him with an article on Outkick today. And some of that's true. Some of that is true. We're still feeling the lingerness of LeBron social justice nonsense, not nonsense, but trying to lecture people, China stuff, still feeling that a little bit from 2019, 2020. But a lot of that stuff, and Adam Silver's a pretty smart guy. I wish he had more of a spine, but he's slowly getting away from that. And the ratings are slowly starting to get a little bit of traction, per se. And we've also gotten more parity. That's another good thing. But the league is coming back to a more chemistry-based league. More coachable players. And if you start to see these European guys start to get the love, I think that the Americans will probably take notice here and follow suit here. I mean, one of the highest prospects in years is from France with Victor Wembanyama, very respectful guy, and could not wait to be coached at San Antonio. Wembanyama, he's a Frenchman there. Had dinner with knows Tony Parker. Had dinner with the other bigs, former bigs from San Antonio. And I also mentioned the fact that they sold out their summer game on Friday, which I'm actually going to watch. I've got it recorded. I think it comes on the time I'm doing the program. It's actually been moved to ESPN from NBA TV. So, but Van Gundy, yeah, I think he'll work out somewhere. Now, if he goes to Orlando, it's not going to be a lot. He's just there to get them on traction, maybe next year or something. If he goes to a Pelicans, he'll be straight with Zion Williamson. Hey, you're going to have to lose some weight. New York guy, very straightforward, and Williamson knows that. I think Williamson's kind of got the memo with all that. Hey, Wesley Media. Hey, thanks for sharing my show the other day on Twitter, buddy. I appreciate that. Did wanted to mention that to you. A friend there from the UK. I guess Dan Dave Harris there from Let's Talk Sports. But I think Gundy, he's still got it in him. I could see him. He'll probably fill in as some kind of assistant here over this season. And I think he'll get a job next season. I really do. I think he's twice the coach his brother is. So I think his brother's a little mediocre, kind of living off of his name here. He's not bad. Stan's not bad, but he's not Jeff. Jeff's teams play hard every night, man. So I think that's a good thing there. Kudos to Jeff Van Gundy. Okay, now, I've told you all this, that I say this to Carlos, and he is Mr. Joe Negative. Carlos is Mr. Joe Negative. There you are. When it comes to complimenting the New York Knicks, I know you're a huge Tom Thibodeau fan. Of course, I'm being sarcastic here, but I like I tried to tell you before, and you did agree, Carlos, that this team has been disciplined when they did not. Sometimes I give teams credit for the moves they don't make. In the NFL, teams that don't get these receivers. There was a report today that the Knicks, they looked at getting Paul George, but the Clippers asked too much. Listen to Colin Cowherd. You say, why are you playing Colin Cowherd? Because I don't have sources in the league. I have to play stuff from First Take. Not much from First Take, but the Undisputed. I have to play stuff from Colin because I don't have sources at the league. I'm an independent guy. So listen to what he says about this Paul George thing and the Knicks not being Knicks of yesteryear, but being Knicks is showing a little bit of patience.
I led a show with the New York Knicks, but this was very encouraging. Apparently the Knicks were in contract talks with Paul George of the Clippers. Very good player, like him a lot. A lot of injuries, getting older, not getting healthier. And the Knicks said, we like a lot of this, but the price is too high. We're not going to do it. 10 years ago, it wouldn't have mattered the price. The Knicks would have made that move. 5 years ago, the Knicks probably make that move. I've been told by a source I trust, they're not going to extend Paul George with the Clippers. Too many injuries, not available. Steve Ballmer's not into it, nor should he be. And I like Paul George. But the New York Knicks are really close to being really good. Now they're good. They're not really good. They're good. There's a lot of reasons they're good. Jalen Brunson, point guard, is not only effective and productive, he's got a very nice contract that shrinks next year and the year after. It doesn't go up, it goes down. It's not punitive to the team. Second reason, Julius Randle's a nice complimentary piece. Two-time All-Star, plays hard. Probably a 3, not a 2, but he plays his butt off. You know what you're getting. He's got a style. He leans into it. Number 3 is they have 11 first-round picks in the next 7 years and all sorts of nice movable parts.
I'm glad that to be ahead of the national media here. And I played that because, again, he says he's got it sourced. They didn't want to give Paul George. The Clippers didn't want to extend Paul George. And I looked at George's games played here. And let me see. Good crowd tonight, folks. You guys are thirsty for some sports talk, huh? Let's see. I had his depth chart here, or had his game chart here, and it's not good. You know, George is a guy that when he's playing, excellent two-way player. You know, there was so much talk about Kawhi Leonard's injury history. I never even knew. I knew that George had a really bad injury. Obviously, broke his leg in the a few years ago. Here we go. Okay, Paul George, games played, 56 last year, 31 the year before that, 54 year before that, 19 and 20, 48 games. He hasn't played 60 games since 2018. That's what Colin Cowherd was saying. He hasn't played since 2018. And I do agree with what he said, because I said it a year ahead of time. I said the Knicks show tremendous patience and strength not to fight on Donovan Mitchell. There was a lot. You don't listen to Stephen A. Smiths of the world and who pound on tables, and they're not listening to the fans. They're not listening to guys like Stephen A. Smith. They're listening to their own scouts and fortitudes and saying, no, we've got a good team here. Do we want to mortgage the future for a guy like Donovan Mitchell? This is in 22, a year ago. 1 year ago, I said this. And I said, you don't want to put this ball-centric guy. There's a reason why Utah's getting rid of him. And I do like this Jalen Brunson guy. I think Dallas they're undervaluing this guy. And that's exactly what they did. They get Brunson. They hired his dad. They did not hire. They did not make and give up too much, like was being asked last year for Donovan Mitchell. Now they didn't go after Paul George. Now they didn't want to go crazy with Paul George. We just talked about the young R.J. Barrett, Josh Hart on that team. We know about Brunson. Yes, I do agree with Colin. Randall presses way too much, Carlos. He presses way too much in the playoffs. He doesn't live up to it. I think he's not a big game player. I like Randall. I've liked Randall since the day he was drafted to the Lakers back in the day out of Kentucky. I followed Randall for a long time. He is not a two player. He's a really good, he's probably a 3, maybe a 4 per se. He's a solid player. They do need another wing player. I've read that maybe they go after there's still some rumors that they still may be interested in a Karl Anthony Towns. But again, I do not think that they're going to overpay there. They've got a nice bench. They've still got, like I said, Barrett. I would lean more into Barrett if I'm the Knicks. We talked about Dante DiVincenzo. You're right, Carlos. He is a good bench player. So they got a pretty deep team. They've got, like he said, salary cap situations that are going the other direction. They've got Thibodeau there. Now, I did read, well, what about maybe if they bring back Jeff Van Gundy? And I read, why did Van Gundy leave the Knicks? And Van Gundy said he felt like he lost a buffer between himself and ownership 19 games into the 01-02 season. So basically he's saying, look, the guy's too micromanaging. Maybe he's learned from this. I don't know. I know they got rid of their general manager, but is the operations guy Mitchell Robertson not a bad fit? These guys, like I was telling Corey earlier, talking about Van Gundy, I think the league is pivoting back towards more respect for coaches, more role player induced, more team, not so much throwing stars together, not being impulsive. We saw the teams that thrown together the Phoenix Suns. They fell short last year. We saw the Nets throw together a team the year before that, and the year before that, that didn't come through too much. We saw the Nets a few years ago do it all, obviously, again. And we saw it with Philadelphia making big moves. Didn't quite work out with them, but we're starting to see teams lot of European based players, and taking in just role players, adding small pieces here and there, not trying to add the big kahuna when you know that big kahuna, you're overpaying for them, and B, may not fit your scheme and culture. You're starting to see a little bit more of that. Like I said, I went back and looked at the Aaron Gordon trade. I thought that was really good with Denver. So it's a lot of the league is coming back towards bigs, putting more of an emphasis on bigs, more of an emphasis. Look at Golden State, by the way. They got Wiseman was a very high draft pick. They gave up on him early because he didn't fit their scheme with Golden State. So they moved off him. The pool didn't fit their scheme, so they moved off him. Chemistry's back. Chemistry should never left. Chemistry should have left, but we had LeBron with the super team there, and a lot of copycats there. Now things are kind of settling down and going probably the way they should be going, if you ask me. Wow, got a lot of people listen. Okay, so Skills says, I have a feeling Damian Lillard's not going to go through. Yeah, Lillard. Now, Colin Coward says he don't think Damian Lillard would fit their scheme. He does take a lot of shots. I wouldn't lose. I don't totally agree with that statement. I know Lillard is very headstrong on wanting to go to Miami. All reports are indicating that. Quite frankly, I think it would probably be the best fit between Miami and Milwaukee or Boston. I think Lillard is a team guy. I think that at this age, he's a 4-year starter out of Weber State. He's a very intelligent player. Maybe he was given too much in Portland. We don't know if he would be asked to play a different role, not take so many shots, not walk the ball up in certain teams or situations like a Knicks and play off the ball. I think that Damian Lillard, and I trust in the character of Damian Lillard. He's not a Russell Westbrook type. He doesn't come off that way to me. I think the Knicks could make it work with Lillard. I definitely think a team like Boston could make it work with Lillard. Miami could definitely make it work with the Damian Lillard, and a Milwaukee and make it, because Lillard is at this point where he would like to get a ring. He's 33, been playing in Portland for a long time. He's not going to be a guy, I think, that takes to. I think if you ask Lillard to do something, I think he'll do it. Hey, man, need you to take about 14 to 16 shots today. Probably won't need you to set more screens. We feel like the matchup is going to be with player X or play. I think Lillard's coachable. I think he would do that. I don't think that he is a headstrong Russell Westbrook type of player. I just don't see that. Could be wrong. But I don't see that. And if his contract's going to run out soon, why was it 3 years? Why not just use it and then maybe trade him to somebody else? Give them picks to take him off your hands, and you do it that way. I know the NBA kind of does things like that. I know the NFL, you can cut people and eat dead money, but you could bring a Damian Lillard into, for example, I know that the two core guys are still pretty young in Boston, and Jaylen Brown and Tatum, for say, and I know Brunson's very young. Well, what if Lillard just played there for a couple of years, you win a championship, and then you trade him elsewhere, you pay his contract off at the very end? That type, you get the win, and then you move the player out. There's too much. The players have to grow together. They have to be a certain age. No, I mean, listen, sometimes you can strike while the iron's hot. I do believe in that. I don't believe in mortgaging the farm to do it. But if you got an opportunity to win now and still have a future, you could still do both. I still think you can do both. I don't think it has to be all the way one way or all the way another. Like everybody's got to win now. We're all going to retire in 2 years. We got one guy that's just on the back end. He's just slightly out of his prime. But, man, could we use his scoring in the playoffs? the Knicks at times couldn't throw a peanut in the ocean in the playoffs, folks. But they've showed a lot of discipline. What the Knicks needs to dump Randall last year, 8 minutes. I think the Knicks are holding out for a big player to come available. For example, back to Minnesota. What if they just re-signed, who's it, Anthony Edwards? They just re-signed Edwards, okay? If they run it back and for whatever reason it does not work out with Gobert, remember he got into it with one of the players, and they don't go far next year or middle of the year, maybe they make a move and trade off Karl Anthony Towns by the trade deadline. I want to say he's getting towards the end of his contract. Could do something like that. Could Joel Embiid be moved? Possibly. The 76ers could get frustrated. They could move Embiid. The process is pretty much over with. Now, they got Maxey. They might want to do something with him and Maxey. I don't know yet. But the Knicks, just because you have a lot of money, don't let it burn a hole in your pocket. Be patient. Make the right move. And just don't overpay. They went through, this is the second year that they've made really good moves so far. By the way, Josh Hart, $12.4 million to stay with him. That's a win in its own, keeping your own guys. People, let's not undersell keeping the talent that you got. That was huge. Josh Hart is a very solid player. And there's a possibility they could go after Jay Wright. I do think Wright, at his age, smart guy, he could probably make things work in New York. But I'd probably just keep things the way they are right now. I would like to see the Knicks get some more talent. Looks like Trae Young's going to stay put. I know they kept Murray down in Atlanta, by the way. He just signed an extension, Devontae Murray, the player that they got from the Spurs last year. So I thought maybe that you can bring in a Trae Young. Not sure what they're going to do yet, but at least they're not impulsive. Impulsive does not win more often than not. It doesn't win in football with the team right across the road there back in the day with the Knicks or with the Jets. And like Colin Cowherd said 10 years ago, they would have done some crazy trade and went after a Carmelo Anthony or a J.R. Smith or somebody like that and, try to make the headlines instead of building a foundation. They're kind of learning from the Celtics, learning from Golden State. Now looks like Denver's going to be doing something. So, sometimes patience is good. Patience is good. What's the old adage? If you listen too much to the fans, you'll be up there with them, right, Pickles? Joel barely made MVP playing 60 games. Yeah, he was too caught up. That's the knock on him, Carlos. He was way too caught up into getting that MVP, and so was his coach, and that's why they fired Doc Rivers. Okay, Carlos on fire tonight. He says what the Knicks to do is dump Randall last year. They ate up too much minutes. He says 3 guys: Robertson, Harden, Sims. Not a bad. Yeah, I mean they've got good, solid bench. Skill says have a feeling Portland's going to take their time and not push Dame. Yeah. I don't know if Dame is. That's what I'm reading too. That they may simply stay with Dame, probably throughout training camp. Perhaps. It sounds like there's not a huge market for Dame, and I'm also reading that it sounds like they don't want Tyler Hero, and Tyler Hero seemed to have some maturity issues. And they just don't want that Tyler Hero. I know he's been thrown around a lot of trade scenarios, but like I said yesterday, maybe he goes to the Spurs and then something else be worked out as far as, a boatload of picks to get from San Antonio over to Portland to build with Scoot Henderson there, who I do think is going to be a really good player. You're going to notice him right off the bat. But Scoot Henderson and Dame and Nurkic, I don't think that they're championship ready. And Dame don't. I'm okay. I wish Dame would not have signed that 2021 extension. I'm still there with Damian Lillard. But something will get done. It may actually go to the trade deadline. But Dame is, his camp is putting this, Miami or nothing, man. Come on, dude. You wouldn't want to go play with Boston. You wouldn't want to go play with Giannis. Those guys need you, DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, I know you want to play with Pat Mahomes. You want to go play with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's got a lot of, issues there. Pat Mahomes, that team, they've kind of got their young core that they want to work with. The Patriots need you. They're going to use you more often. Tennessee would use you more often. But I would pick the Patriots, though, from Hopkins because they look to be more together than the Titans right now, already having their starting right tackle out for first 6 games. So, anyways, a lot of stuff to keep an eye on. I still think Jeff Van Gundy got a future in the league as a coach, probably be an assistant somewhere. I think he'll get a job next year. This time next year, we'll be talking about his new team. And I do think the Knicks have shown patience, and it's good to be proven right about this trajectory of this Knicks team. It's good. It's good for the league when the Knicks are good. Are they great? No, but they're good. They're presentable now. They're stable. Okay, switching gears to the pigskin. Last couple of weeks, been talking about the NFC South. You've got teams like Atlanta. A lot of people saying, why is Atlanta 8.5 point over and under as far as wins are concerned for them with a guy like Desmond Ridder, second-year player out of Cincinnati. What's up with that? Carlos, me and you have I've argued about in the past about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're saying that they've made such a big turnover in players that they're going to be good, and he thinks that they're going to do well. This is my take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've got the whole write-up here. First of all, their starting cornerback, Carlton Davis, said something here. Pro Football Talk wrote up about this here. Let me make sure I got it here. Carlton Davis says, their cornerback here, people who doubt the Bucs after Tom Brady are in for a rude awakening. Buccaneers cornerback Carlton Davis believes Tampa is going to be severely underestimated headed into 2023. Davis had told Tyler Dunn of GoLongTD.com that departure of Brady absolutely does not mean the Bucs are no longer contenders. He said, quote, we're about to do it to them. Davis says, anybody feels they've lost time, lost something, it's going to be in for a rude awakening. He's just trying to talk up his teammates there. They've got Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I should say no more. You got Baker Mayfield there. They fired Byron Leftwich at offensive coordinator. They hired the Seattle Seahawks now, in that defense there. They hired the Seattle Seahawks quarterback coach, this Dave Canales, who worked with Geno Smith last year, who, had a tremendous turnaround and got a new extension there. Now, Seattle's going to be pretty good, really good next year. Seattle may win the West, but going back to this team, the fact is, I don't trust pretty much anybody on their offensive line other than their center, Ron Jensen, and left tackle Thurston Wirfs. They could not move the ball that much at all last year. I like Todd Bowles. I just think Bowles is probably more of a coordinator material type of coach here. If you look at their roster, yeah, they got some talented players. They still got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I just think when you've got a guy like Kyle Trask as your backup quarterback, you've got Baker Mayfield as your starter there, a guy who could barely – he's not going to have not even have a tenth of the offensive line that he had at Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland, one of the best offensive lines in football, second only to maybe Philadelphia or somebody, and he's throwing the ball in the dirt with them. when he's got these guys blocking for him, they're going to get pressure up the middle. They're going to get pressure on his right. I think Wirfs is pretty good. They could not run the ball consistently whatsoever last year. You know, I was looking at their schedule here. If I can find it. I've got so many screenshots and notes here, folks. It's hard to keep up with everything here. But my thing is, they're a team that, you know, they play at Minnesota next year to start the season. They got to play Philadelphia. They play Detroit, very good. They play at Buffalo. Teams like Tennessee, at San Francisco. They play Jacksonville this year. Very good team there. They're just not at New Orleans before bye week. So it's a team that I do think they'll look decent early. I checked their standings last year as far as like run defense, pass defense, run, both of them around 15th. Now, you say, well, why'd you do that? I said, because you're playing with Tom Brady, a guy who gets rid of the football in 1.2 or 3 seconds. You're dealing with a guy like Baker Mayfield who hangs on to the ball, thinks he's faster than what he is. When he goes against that Carolina defense, he's going to find out real quick he ain't that quick. They're going to eat this guy alive. My thing is they'll probably fire Todd Bowles at the end of this season. He was more brought in, I think, because he got along really well with Tom Brady. Tom Brady and Bruce Arians were butting heads at the end. Bowles is probably going to get canned. And my thing is they'll probably finish at 5-12, 4-13, dead last in the division. They're going to be in the runnings for North Carolina's Drake May. Or if they're really lucky, they could jump ahead of Arizona, lose more than them, and get Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC, and start over. That would be my guess. They want to start over, and they'll go out and get an offensive-minded head coach, in my opinion. The same thing. By the way, FanDuel is picking them to finish last in their division as well. Again, I may talk about them a little bit when we get towards. This is not my final prediction. Anything before training camp, it's not my final prediction. These are just what I'm looking at in pre-camps. My final prediction for every team will be the week of Labor Day this year. And so, let's see, what did I put? Yeah, so FanDuel's got them at 6.5 wins. I'll take that under. I'll take that under. And quite frankly, I'll go a step further. I think this team could be a seller. They could be a seller like a Denver last year, trading Bradley Chubb to the Miami Dolphins. They could be maybe they could deal an aging Mike Evans or Chris Godwin or Vita Vita to a team and you know, grab more draft picks when it comes around November, when the trade deadline, which is now a big deal in the NFL. It's almost like the NBA and the Major League Baseball trade deadline. No, but I think Ritter, I'll talk about Atlanta here in just a second. Okay, now, Carolina. Now, Carolina, very good pieces on defense. J.C. Horn, one of the better cornerbacks in the entire NFL. You know, he's up there with Sauce Gardner with the Jets here. That's Joe Horn's son, former New Orleans Saint wide receiver Joe Horn's son. Very good cornerback. Derek Brown, very good defensive tackle there. So they got pieces on defense. They got their guy Bryce Young, really accurate quarterback at the University of Alabama. And by the way, he's already won the starting job. High football acumen. but he's super small, folks. I mean, he's a guy going to look pretty good early. He's going to look a lot like Tua, throws bullets out there. They had to trade up to get him. But you look at this Carolina team, very impatient owner. They're just a squad here. Not really a lot of notoriety when it comes to now defensively. Shy Tuttle, Derek Brown, Shaq Thompson, Deontay Jackson at the other. Very good defense on paper here. Very good defense on paper. Remember, they went out, hired Frank Wright there to be the head coach. Going to be a good opening game. They play at Atlanta in week 1. But here's my thing about this team is you look at their offense. They got Miles Sanders. Adam Thielen's 150 years old in football years. His best days are behind him. DJ Shark cannot stay healthy. Terrence Marshall Jr. is very inconsistent with the Hayden Hurst as well at tight end. So, they didn't do any favors with this young quarterback by getting him any they traded away DJ Moore. Remember, he's a Chicago Bear now. Now, they did get Laviska Shenault. I actually like Laviska Shenault. He's a kind of a gadget guy, came over from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do like Bryce Young's accuracy. But Bryce Young is tiny. It's not if, it's when. It's when he gets hurt, folks. When Bryce Young gets hurt is the issue with me. I watched him at Alabama, barely touched in that Arkansas game, and he gets hurt for a game and a half in that game. He's tiny. I'm just not sure. Hope he stays healthy. Really good for the league. If he stays healthy all 17 games, that's a big if, man. If he stays healthy all 17 games, yeah, he could possibly win Rookie of the Year. I wouldn't put it past him. So next year will probably be their year. Probably be their year to make the big jump. He'll be on his rookie contract. They'll have some more flexibility to go out and get some more free agents here. I think that you're going to see a lot of flash out of him. I cannot wait to see the guy, actually. But as far as this year is concerned, they got to play at Seattle. They got to play at Detroit. They got to play at Miami. They got to play Dallas. They got to play at Tennessee. If Tennessee's relatively healthy, that's going to be rough. They got to play at Jacksonville. Colin Cowherd mentioned that they may be a sleeper playoff team. I disagree with that. I think the Panthers, although they'll look good at times, they're going to look good at times. I think that Panthers are probably 6-11, 7-10 type of team. They'll be in a lot of these games. They'll probably be shifting between Bryce. I think Young will start early. I think Bryce Young will start week 1. Don't get me wrong. He's going to look good at times. But I do think he's going to get banged up, and I do think Andy Dalton will play 2 to 4 games this year. And it's just there's just not enough consistency there for the familiarity with his targets. Now they'll get that better next year. They'll address that next year, but they're going to be shifting in too many other players around him for him to develop any type of real chemistry. Him being Bryce Young when he's not playing, and I expect Andy Dalton, who is no world beater by any means, he's not going to light up the scoreboard anywhere, even with the Frank Wright there. But they're going to have a defense that's going to keep them in games, and that's what's going to keep the Carolina Panthers. That will keep them interesting, per se. That will keep them in. So Carlos, he's got a whole lot to say here. He says, I'm not a Baker fan, but I've seen Baker play better than Ritter on all the teams. And that's a good transition for me. Okay. And Carlos says they need weapons for you want to get weapons for rookie quarterbacks, no matter how highly talented they are. As they get more relaxed as a pro, year 2, year 3, you can kind of lighten up on that. You don't have to go all world with players. You have to go the other way when you have a player towards the end of their career, like a Tom Brady per se. But if you believe in this quarterback, you don't have to get crazy. You just got to protect them. Maybe get one decent tight end, one decent receiver, and have that line tightened up, in my opinion. I'm not a guy that just pays a bunch of wide receivers a big bunch of money. Okay? But Carolina, they're not going to be a sleeper team this year. I don't think so. But their defense, again, will keep them in games. All right. Now, Atlanta is an interesting team. There is some pressure on third year, even though, I understand Arthur Blank, really good guy, the owner there. The only team that I know of, that I personally know of, that Atlanta Falcons does not charge ridiculous prices in their stadium for refreshments. So kudos to Arthur Blank. Kudos to Arthur Blank for that. Now, this team, you say, man, 8-5, that's a lot. Atlanta sucks. But you know something, folks? I look back at Atlanta, and Atlanta won. This is with, right away, Ritter. He started 4 games last year, week 15 through 18. He won his last 2 games. His stats got better the last 2 weeks. His stats took big jumps the last 2 weeks. This team lost 19-16 to Pittsburgh. They lost to 27. No, they won 27-24. They lost to the LA Chargers, the LA freaking Chargers, playoff team. They lost to them 2017. Last minute field goal. I remember that game. Lost in overtime to Carolina. So they end up winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. And I thought they were terrible at times last year because I know Mariota is not that guy, but they have made tremendous upgrades on their team. Above average offensive line, led by, what's a guy named Jake Matthews, one of the Matthews brothers there. And Drake London getting better every week. Second-year player out of USC, very consistent wide receiver. We know what Kyle Pitts brings to the table. And now you add a Bijan Robertson, multiple NFL experts, not one, said he's the safest pick in the draft. The running back out of University of Texas, the safest pick in the draft. What Arthur Smith is wanting to do is, Desmond Ridder says, I want to model my game after a guy like Ryan Tannehill. I think my game's similar to a guy like Ryan Tannehill. Arthur Smith, former offensive coordinator for Tennessee Titans, he sees a guy like Bijan Robertson and this Al Jazeera guy, I call him Alligator, who had a great year last year. I think he had 1,000 yards. He's wanting to 1-2 punch these guys. Have a little Derrick Henry there mixed in as a Bijan Robertson, but he can also catch the ball out of the backfield. He can block. He's got some Zeke Elliott, rookie year, Zeke Elliott type of hype coming out of college here in Bijan Robertson. And they've added quite a few pieces there to their defense. Calais Campbell would play tackle there at the defensive side. Spent some money, but they got a guy that's going to calm their secondary down. And Jesse Bates, he's out of, since they had the money to do it, out of Cincinnati there. Got the safety there to help them out. They traded for Detroit's Jeff Okudah. Okudah's up and down for Detroit. He was the former number 3 pick overall for Detroit there. So you start to look at some of these. You start to look at some of these acquisitions, and quite frankly, they're not bad at corner. Prior to this, I was looking at their depth chart here, the Falcons depth chart. If I can get to it, I've got 1,000. By the way, Falcons, the easiest schedule in the NFL, 32nd ranked schedule. But, they brought in former Tennessee Titan Bud Dupree. A.J. Terrell, one of the most underrated players, one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the NFL. A.J. Terrell there. Grady Jarrett at right defensive end. Lorenzo Carter. I mean, so they've got pieces on defense that they haven't had in a very long time. And I know Calais Campbell's a little long in the tooth, but they're looking at Ridder. They're thinking, okay, with Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I didn't even mention the fact. Let's go over their offense again. Drake London, speed at guys like Scotty Miller. I remember him. But you guys, Bijan Robertson, Taylor Algier, Cordell Patterson, a lot of speed there. And quite frankly, if Ridder can't make it happen, they're just going to put in Taylor Heineke, who, got into the playoffs with the Washington Commanders. So this team, offensive line, check. Defensive line, not perfect, but much upgraded. Secondary, not perfect, but much upgraded. Arthur Smith, somewhat of a hot seat. Won 7 games last year, 32nd. That's right. Last year I said the Eagles have a 32nd ranked schedule. I think they're going to win some games next year. They'll probably come in second place. They'll win 10, 11 games. Well, they had the 1 seed last year. Don't think they have that kind of roster. Don't get me misquoted here. But if you look at the kind of schedule they got, very easy, 32nd dead, the easiest schedule in the entire league. You look at that, all those skilled players with that offensive line, with that depth at quarterback, I got them as like a 9-win team here. Borderline, possibly third wild card type of team to win. So I do think they'll finish probably second in this team, in this division, probably just a game ahead of Carolina, in my opinion. Just a game ahead of Carolina. And, of course, last but not least, folks, the Saints. The Saints obviously bringing in Derek Carr. Saints, another team, won 7 games with Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. Winston, they won 7 games. They should have won 8. Pickles, you remember that game where the Saints blew that game. Winston was one turnover after another at home to Tampa last year. And they had that big fight in that game. I think it was Mike Evans got suspended, got into it with Lattimore. People were asking questions about that. You remember that? And they beat the Eagles last year. Remember that Saints game where Winston threw one bad interceptions after another when they outplayed Tampa. But due to those, so really they should have won 8 games. They gift wrapped Tampa that game last year, and Mickey Loomis, they were $100 million again over the cap, and he finds a way to keep their core guys together. Now Vegas has them at a 9.5 point win over and under. I think they'll win about 11 games this year. I think their defense, I'm trying to go to their depth chart here, and I've got so much going on here. I'll find them here in a minute. Here we go. Okay. So, like I said, he kept guys like Cam Jordan, Mickey Loomis, the head coach there. Kept Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, very good safety tandem. Marshawn Lattimore still on the team. Just really good players here. Kalon Sanders at defensive tackle. Guys that, don't really look like they're big-time players, but they're really, really well coached. He's very good. on that side of the ball, bringing in a calm, motivated Derek Carr. By the way, nobody's talking about this. Everything I'm reading, Michael Thomas is going to be back and play this year. Michael Thomas will be back. Chris Olave, rookie, he really played well last year as a rookie. Can run like the wind blows. Brought in Jamal Williams from Detroit as a backup to Alvin Kamara. I don't know if Kamara is going to get suspended or not, but he might. But Jawan Johnson Pickles, very underrated tight end there on this team. And their offensive line, Trevor Penny, Eric McCoy. And again, like Pickles says, they beat, I want to say they went up there and beat them in Philadelphia as well. They beat them. So I do think very tough team to beat at home. I had them losing their opening game to Tennessee, but now that Tennessee's lost their right tackle for the first 6 games, I think they actually come up. With a win there. I think they'll beat Tennessee now at home. Then they play Carolina at Carolina Monday night. That's a coin toss game. But they're playing teams like Jordan Love-led Green Bay Packers. They're playing Houston. They got Jacksonville, but it's at home on a Thursday night. They can win that game with their defense. They're playing Minnesota with their terrible defense. They got Detroit at New Orleans. It's big difference between Detroit and New Orleans in the home field. They got the Giants at home. They play the Rams on a short week there. They could get beat in that game. Like I said, they do have to play at New England. I think New England will probably get them up there. But they also play the Colts. They got the Bears at home. They got the NFC North. They got the 31st easiest schedule. They got the 31st easiest schedule in the league with their fellow NFC South opponent there, Atlanta, with the 32nd easiest schedule. So it's not too far from Atlanta's, except they got a much more established veteran quarterback there, and probably got a push on defense, but they're so much more polished at QB. I think that they're going to win this division and probably win a playoff game, possibly 2. We just don't know. This could change. Again, my final picks and analysis will come the week of Labor Day. That's after everybody has made their cuts. We know the injury report. I'll give you that. The week of Labor Day, I'll break down every division and every team, because we don't know where DeAndre Hopkins is going. There's a chance that Hopkins and Dalvin Cook could both go to Philadelphia or to New England, like I was telling you about yesterday, folks. So, again, right now, I got the Saints in first place in the South, followed by Atlanta, then Carolina, then the Tampa Bay Bucks, who will be vying for Drake May out of Carolina in the draft, or Caleb Williams. So, and of course, Gruden is lurking in New Orleans, and if things come up short, Gruden's trying to work his way back in the league, which I think he should. If you want to share somebody's email and throw them under the bus, let's share everybody's email, okay? So, but yeah, I do think that's going to be a really good team this year. And actually, I thought that they lost way more than 7 games. I thought they lost way more than 10 games last year. So it's going to be an interesting season. That's going to be an interesting division other than Tampa to watch. I can't wait to see what Young looks like, especially what Atlanta's got on lines of scrimmage and big playmakers at skill positions there. That's going to be a very interesting. And Atlanta and Tampa, that New Orleans, that as much as I think Tampa, it was really heated last year between Tampa and New Orleans. Anybody you talk to in New Orleans and Atlanta, I think that those two are the biggest rivals. Because I've seen some YouTube videos with the fans fighting in line at between the Saints and the Falcons. That's a big time rival. John Gruden, not Jay. I'm curious about his other brother. Yeah, I haven't seen him around. I thought he was going to get hired, but nobody's gave Jay Gruden the shot. Okay, tomorrow, hopefully I'll have Carlos back here at 8 o'clock Eastern time, plus, folks, at 6:30 Eastern time, I'll be on Spitballing Sports. You can find them on, let's see, you can find these guys on Let's Talk Sports or the Spitballing Sports Facebook or their YouTube channel there. We'll be talking about all these topics here in the NFL and whatnot. I'll be on there tomorrow with John Restano and whoever else he's got there co-hosting. Yeah, and I don't know where Carson Wentz. I don't know if anybody has signed Carson Wentz, Carlos. That's a good point. I'm not real sure about that. I don't know if he is signed anywhere or not. Open to back up. So somebody's going to bring him in. I just don't know who. But I think he got a reality check. Here it is, July. I don't think he is went with anybody. Thank you, Pickles. Guys, please, again, if you like the show, please share the show. We got to build this thing up organically because I just don't have the money to do any serious advertising right now. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, here on Sports Scope.